Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am Bill, the company's expert, and it's great for you to join me today. Thank you to my subscribers, to my Patreons, to my YouTube channel members. You guys are awesome. And my super thanks donors. You guys are awesome. And the title of this episode of Side Hustle Ideas is How to Start a Business from Scratch with No Money. So we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about 4 principles of practical marketing, because I just like the topic and I think it is relevant to the topic here. So welcome. We will be taking questions. So if you see my face and you're on a computer or a phone or whatever you are, you should see a chat box somewhere near me. Get in the chat. Let me know what you're struggling with, what you're wondering. I'm going to take questions after we talk about the main topics today. Yeah. Hopefully my hair and everything looks perfect, as it always does, especially from the side. Yeah, look at that. Oh, that's business hair. So for all of those who you were wondering, if you want to try and improve yourself, get this haircut. That'll be number 1 on the list. Okay. Welcome. We're going to talk about starting a business today. And this is for people who are in this for multiple reasons. Now, you could be wanting to do a side hustle, which is the name after all of this live stream, which means that you still have a day job, but you're doing something on the side. So this stuff applies to you. You could also be wanting to start a full-blown, full-time business, right? It's not a side hustle. It's something you do as your main line. All the principles we're going to talk about today apply for that too. And thirdly, you might be in the whole startup world, the world of innovative entrepreneurship, okay? I don't like to call it tech entrepreneurship, but just the larger umbrella of innovative entrepreneurship, where you're not starting up like a traditional business like a restaurant or something. You're trying to do something new and original. So if that's you, these principles apply also, okay? And I've had involvement and interaction with all 3 of those, and I've helped people in doing all 3 of those in the past. So these are universal principles we're going to talk about today. Let's get into this here. Okay, let's just jump in. And hello to everyone in the chat. Now, I think I want to try to do a slightly different format today. Now, normally what I would do in the past is I would sort of start talking about the topic, and then I would interrupt and take questions as they came in. And sometimes that meant that I didn't get back to my original topic, and I wouldn't really complete the discussion. Today, I wanted to try something a little bit different. I wanted to sort of focus more on the answering the topic and giving the answers. If you do have questions, get in the chat. I will be taking questions later. But if there's something burning that you're wanting to get an answer to, if you do a super thanks or a super sticker or a super chat, and I get the question that way, I will stop and give you an answer. So that's kind of how I'm going to try and do this. Okay. So let's start at the beginning. If you are wanting to start a side hustle or a business, congratulations. You are setting out on a journey, and the journey is not what everybody thinks. Okay. A lot of times people think the journey is to make money. You go from not making money to making money. Yeah, that is the thing that happens, or that hopefully happens, but that is not the main journey that you're on, okay? The main journey that you're on is the journey to acquire knowledge. That's the real journey you're on. And a lot of people recognize this, but some people don't, and that is the reason for their failure, okay? Now think about it. If you understood, you had the knowledge, you knew exactly what to do. You knew exactly what product or service to provide. You knew exactly how to do it. You knew exactly who to sell it to. You knew exactly what price to charge. You knew exactly how to reach those people and get their attention. And you knew exactly what to say to them or to show them that would convince them and get them to be enthusiastic about buying your product or service. Let's say you knew all of those things. Well, then this wouldn't be a challenge. You would make your fortune, you'd retire early, and it would be short and simple, and there wouldn't really be much of a challenge to this. In fact, it would be boring. What's the challenge, of course, is that 99% of people, and actually 99.99% of people, don't know those things when they start. And so what usually happens is people have an idea. They say, okay, I know what's going to work. And by know, they mean guess. And it turns out that that guess was wrong. So they spend a lot of effort trying to do something. Sometimes they never get to the point where it's complete. They just end before then, and nothing comes of their efforts. Other times, they actually get to the completion stage where they had a vision of a product or service, and they actually develop that product or service, and they are at a stage where they can now provide it. Then they realize that, oh, I was wrong. This thing is not the slam dunk that I thought it was. And then it comes to nothing. Okay? Those are two very common scenarios. Now, I'm here to tell you that even though that's what a lot of people end up doing, you don't have to do it like that. There's a much, much simpler way. And that way, in short, is called validation. That's where you test your theories along the way, especially before you've even started, to make sure that it's worth putting in the effort. Okay? That's a key of being able to start a business. Now, if you're doing a traditional business, sometimes you don't need to do it because you've maybe worked in that business, you've been on the inside of it, you've seen how those businesses work, what their appeal is, who their clientele is, how they do their sales and marketing efforts. So you know all that. Great. Now, if that's you, great. You still have validation to do. The question is not, do people want this? The question now is, will they want to buy it from you? Which is an entirely separate question. Okay? So you're on a trip to acquire this knowledge, okay? You want knowledge of the market. That's the number one thing you want. Market means the customers or potential customers. You need to get that information. You need to find out specifically who these people are, what makes them tick, how they think. You can't just guess they're there. You can't just assume they're there. That's not the same thing. Imagine if you had to convince an investor or a partner to come into business with you and do this with you. And they wanted proof. They wanted evidence that this is going to work. I don't want promises. I don't want your theories. I want evidence. So if you could convince them by saying, look, here's my track record. I first did this business. It makes $500,000 a year profit. I then did this business. That makes another $1 million profit a year. Now I'm doing this business. It's in the same industry, going to the same customers. I think that's pretty convincing. Or you could say, look, I don't have a glorious track record of things, but the product that I'm wanting to sell, I've offered it for sale, and I've just done this to get the message out. And that alone has resulted in 35 pre-orders, people that have paid in advance for my product and said, you know, if you produce this, I want one, send it to me. And they've given me their money. So that kind of shows that with this amount of effort, I can get this result. Imagine if we could 10x that, 100x that, 1,000x that. Okay, that would be some evidence, right? So you're on a journey to learn this information. You got to learn about the market. You got to learn about the operations, which is the making of the product or service. Like hopefully, a lot of people start with that. They have that. They know how to provide that particular service or make that product. Okay, some of them do. A lot of people do. Some of them don't. But you will need to have that information. And you also need to have an understanding of finance and accounting, at least the basics. You have to understand the concepts. Because after all, this is a money-making venture, right? It's kind of hard to make money when you don't understand how to calculate money, right? So those are kind of the big three pillars, right? Marketing, operations, and finance. For a lot of people, they'll have one of the first two. They'll have either marketing or operations down. A lot of times it's operations, but they'll have one of those two. They need to now get the other. Okay? So you need to get knowledge by touching the market and touching the industry. I know from personal experience, it's a really hard challenge to break into an industry from the outside because you're guessing about everything. And you need to get some evidence. So one great way to learn that is to be on the inside of an industry. And I know this is kind of a weird thing to say, but a very good way to break into a certain industry is actually to get a job in that industry so you're on the inside of it, even if it's only for 6 months or something. You get in, you see how it works, you learn a hell of a lot. You see the way they're doing things, you try and question, like, why are they doing it that way instead of a different way? Try and get answers to those. That can be a way to get that knowledge of how things work, or to find out where the market is and how you reach those people, how to interact with them. Another way to get that knowledge is to do informational interviews. Hopefully everybody knows what informational interviews are. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Let's say this is new to you. Hopefully everybody knows what a job interview is, right? That's where you have an interview with somebody, but you're discussing whether they're going to hire you. That's a job interview. An informational interview is somewhat similar. You go and meet somebody, but you're not talking about getting a job there. You're going there to get information. So the purpose is you're talking to that person because you want to get certain information from them. So you're asking them questions. You know, how does this work? How does that work? What do you guys do here? What do you guys do there? Right? And you're trying to learn. Now, let's say your ambition was to get into, I don't know, the restaurant business. Okay, like I'm just picking something at random. Personally, I don't recommend restaurants really, and it's not really in my personal expertise, core competency. But let's say that's a traditional business. There's a lot of people that have restaurants. You want to start up a restaurant, but you've never worked in a restaurant. You've never owned a restaurant. No one in your family is a restaurateur or anything like that. So you have about 1 billion questions about how that business works. So one way to start getting that information would be to do informational interviews, where maybe you want to talk to people who own restaurants. Maybe you want to talk to people who run restaurants, because those can be two different people. Maybe you want to talk to people who work in the restaurant business in other capacities, maybe the suppliers who supply food to restaurants, or cleaning services, or real estate, or, you know, they're the franchisors. They're the ones that sell franchises to people who want to own a franchise. So imagine if you could sit down with all of those people and just ask them anything you want and get to learn about how they do things. That is, how can I put this? It is much more possible and doable than a lot of people think, especially a lot of introverts. It's actually quite easy to do this. And that's one source of information. If you wanted to start up a software company, wouldn't it be useful to sit down with someone who, in your town or city or wherever you are, who owns a software business? Whether they provide, whether they develop, they write code, they're developers and they sell a product of their own, or they're like a systems and maintenance, computer services provision type business. Wouldn't it be useful to sit down with some of those people and ask them about the business? Maybe see if they'll give you a tour of their company, or their operation. I've done this. I've met some really amazing CEOs that have given me tours of their operations, and it's been like really, really enlightening. And it's not like they knew me in advance. It just, if you learn how to approach people, how to contact them, what to say, and how the protocol works, this is doable for everybody. If you're interested in learning that, by the way, I cover that in this course, if you're interested. Events and organizations. Another way to learn about the business is to go to some kind of industry event. So if you want to start a restaurant, for example, maybe there's a trade show or industry event where all the people from the restaurant industry go to it. All the owners of restaurants are there. All the suppliers that supply consumables like food to restaurants, but there's other suppliers that supply industrial kitchen equipment, like every type of supplier you could ever think of, every type of vendor, maybe the customers, institutional customers, big businesses that have deals with special restaurants for them to do all their catering and all this kind of stuff. They go there too, as well as some enthusiasts who are aficionados of restaurants and things like this. Maybe they all go to that industry event. Well, that would be useful to go to. You could meet all the players, get a whole bunch of business cards, give your business card, if that makes sense for you. That would be a great place to frequent. They might have resources there that might be of use to you. The franchisors will be there. The franchisees will be there. So these events exist depending on where you are. There's probably some kind of industry event somewhere near you. Might be a good idea for you to go there and you can start getting this knowledge of the entire industry. There are organizations too. If you don't know what that is, or I should say associations. Associations are entities that it's like the Restaurant Association of America or whatever country you're in. There'll be some kind of association like that. And all the restaurants, all the big restaurants maybe, are members. All the suppliers are members. And so it's a gateway to that entire industry and all the players in it. Is my camera too bright? Let's see if I can just turn that down a little bit. Then I don't look like an angel. I've got a video coming out tomorrow that stars my alter ego, so check that out. And let me know if you want to see more of my alter ego in future videos, by the way. Okay, another way is to probe the market. Okay, what does that mean? That means put stuff out there, right? So it's like a trial and error thing. And what I mean specifically is not that you have to do a ton of work producing a product and then announce your product. Instead, it would kind of work the opposite way. You would put out an announcement saying, we have this product, meaning, or we could have this product. Is anyone interested? If you contact me and you send in this money, we will produce it for you, something like that. And then you see what the response is. You go to different, you communicate over various different channels to various different markets and see what the response is. You're probing the market. That's something you can do. Why spend 2 years developing something if at the end of it, when you announce it to the world, there's crickets, right? This helps you avoid that. You cut straight to the learning about what people want and how much they'll pay, right? You learn that at the beginning, then you take that knowledge and then you use that to create the thing that you're going to sell, right? That's called probing the market. Very, very valuable. I'm a big aficionado of this. I've advised many different people and companies to do this, rather than just relying on assumptions. If you're so confident that this is going to happen, what's wrong with getting a little hard evidence that it will work? If you're right that people want this thing and they'll buy it from you and you'll convince them a certain way, why would you then be scared of getting some evidence that that is in fact true? First of all, if you had hard evidence, you'd be able to convince investors or other people, if necessary, to come on board, right? So what's wrong with that? Put your money where your mouth is. And if you're not entirely confident, let's validate it. Let's get you confident before you move ahead and expend money, time, and energy developing something, right? Something I already touched on that's part of this also is front-loading your sales, right? The conventional wisdom is you produce a product or provide a service, then you get money for it, right? People just seem to think like this automatically. They assume that that's what you do, which is kind of strange to me, because when you as a consumer go and buy something from a store, that's not how it works, right? You got to go into the store, you say, I want to buy that thing, and they say, okay, give me your money up front, then you're allowed to have it, right? a lot of consumer sales is based around that format. You pay up front, then you get the thing later, right? But for whatever reason, people assume that when you start a business, it doesn't work that way. You would have to create and provide the thing first before you see any money. Now, sometimes, obviously, that can happen, but my point is that it doesn't necessarily have to happen that way. You could do it any way you want. And if someone truly wants your product or service you're offering, it shouldn't matter to them. They'll order it. And, just like you would order something on Amazon, you pay up front, and then a couple of weeks later or whatever, this thing arrives in the mail. Right? Same idea. People understand that model. So why would your business not be like that? Why couldn't it be like that, at least in the beginning? Well, the answer is it can, right? So why not do that? And that does two things for you. Number one, it validates your idea. It shows that people want to buy it. And number two, there's some of your startup capital to fund creating the thing that you sell, right? You front load the sales part. You don't do the operations first and then worry about sales. You tweak what you're going to offer and what price it should be. Then, when you have hard evidence that this is going to work, then you produce it, right? Far less risky. Far less risky. Okay? So I refer to that as front loading your sales. Okay? Get potential customers to pay in advance. This is the ultimate form of validation, by the way. And then there's two more things. This next item is optional, and it's crowdfunding. You may be able to go this route depending on what industry you're in. I know if you're developing software and stuff, some people do crowdfunding. It's possible to do, but it's not applicable for most things, at least not in my experience. At least it doesn't mean that it isn't. It just means that I haven't really seen it. So, but it is an option. Okay, crowdfunding. Now, crowdfunding would not be as good a validation as simply selling, like simply offering your product. Okay, because people can support what you're doing, but yet at the same time they don't really feel that the product would be a sale that makes sense for them. Right? That has been known. Okay. Basically, at the end of the day, I advocate for what is something very, very close to the Thomas Edison School of Entrepreneurship, which is find the market, get the money, and then produce the offering. Right? That's how I recommend everyone goes about it. And even if you're in a special case, like you're doing a innovative startup company that has an innovative product, and you're saying, my goal is not to sell this to the public, it's to sell my company to a larger company. They're going to acquire me. That's my goal. Okay. Even if that is your entire business plan, essentially, you still need to validate it. You can't get around this exercise by saying, oh yeah, I don't care about sales. I'm just going to sell my company. What I've seen is that people have that as their plan. And then a lot of times it doesn't work out. They assume that they would be valuable to a larger entity. It turns out they're not. So you need to get hard evidence of that at the beginning. Contact some of these companies that would be the companies that you figure would want to acquire you, and talk to the right people in it. Once again, if you don't know how to do that, I cover, the simple way of doing that in this course. Or if you know how to network and you know how to contact, companies and what the protocol is and who you talk to and what do you say, do that in advance. Make sure they are interested. Make sure that they're thinking like that, like you assume they are. Get evidence of that. Put it to them and say, if I developed a company or I developed this product, would you guys be interested in that? Like, show me some evidence. That's what you want. You don't want to go to all this effort and then find out that it comes to nothing. Okay? So the point is, there's no point in getting a lot of capital, a lot of financing when you don't have any knowledge, because you will not be able to produce a profit without knowledge, without knowing what to do, who's it for, how to convince them, how to reach them, right? How to provide it to them. If you don't know any of that, it doesn't matter how much money you get, you will blow lots of money on a completely bad idea that doesn't work and only find that out afterwards. And then you've blown your money and you start back at square one. So it's a journey to acquire knowledge. And this is great news for people because acquiring knowledge is a lot simpler than spending lots of money to produce an expensive product, or setting yourself up to provide a service and training yourself in how to do that service, and then finding out that none of these things are wanted at the end of it, right? Quest for knowledge is easy by comparison. So that's, in a nutshell, how to start a business with no money. You don't need the money. What you need is knowledge. And you can get knowledge through probing the market, informational interviews. What else did I mention? Going to industry events, using techniques like front-loading your sales, putting something out there, okay? Either in the physical world, like a sign, series of signs, or on the internet in the form of a post of some kind. You're publishing yourself. You could possibly crowdfund. Okay. But this is how you gain all that knowledge. And once again, my camera seems very bright. Hopefully it's not the end of the world. That one seems even brighter. Let's turn that one down. Yes, and in your spare time, you could take up a hobby. Here we go. Like extreme choir. What would be your favorite hobby that they don't have that you would like to have? Extreme choir? What would that be? Okay, so we'll go over to questions just very briefly, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about practical marketing. 4 principles of practical marketing. But first, Salim Khan is here, says, Hi, Salim, how are you doing? Or the internet-friendly version is, sup. Instead of how you doing, just say, sup. Got to have the head nod in there too. Brandy says, I want to start an HR consulting business, but I don't know how to market myself and how to price each package. Any tips? Yes, everything I just said. So for example, if you're wanting, you see, this is an example of you're looking for knowledge, right? Now, what did I say? You could do informational interviews. The first question is, who would hire you? Right? That'd be the most obvious question. Who would want to hire you? And what would they hire you for? What are they in the habit of paying? Right? So if I was in that position, the first thing I would do is set up a few informational interviews with the owners of companies or the people that are managing companies, so the CEOs of, maybe mid-sized companies that are around you. And you could ask them what they're looking for, if they've ever hired, HR, like you say, HR consulting. So you're not necessarily doing recruitment and selection, but you're doing maybe, like essentially an advising role. I don't know, advising on what, just HR policy or succession plans or, hiring practices, whatever. Making sure they're compliant with all the labor laws, all this kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know what you're doing, but you could ask them about it. What do they need? Have they ever hired those type of people in the past? What are they looking for? What are their concerns going into the future? Get that information. Then you would have an idea of exactly what to say to them, right? And then you would have a better idea of what to do. My good buddy Up Down is here. A little late, but I'm here. I'm going eventually to convert my LLC to a nonprofit once I get my board and work on registration. Okay, that is an enrichment program. I've been learning and working backwards from how much you want to make and figuring out how many customers you need, and then refining that based on how likely you are to chase a number. Okay, so basically you're now listen. This may sound a bit harsh, but it's not meant to be. Okay, I'm honestly trying my best to help you, to get you to think about the right things. It sounds like you're spending a lot of time in your head crunching numbers and dreaming about like what I could do and, all this. Okay, that's great. So you have the inspiration to start. Now you actually need to start, okay? Because unless you get knowledge, which is turning into the theme of this live stream today, all those numbers don't make sense. You don't know if they're realistic. You don't know if they're the right thing to do. You can't really work backwards unless you get specific information about what you can do in terms of what you can offer and offer to whom, right? So this is where you need to go out and start getting information, filling in the gaps. Yes, you could do this or you could do that. However, what you're maybe missing right now is that when you talk to the owners of 10 companies that would be your clients, it turns out none of them want this, but all of them want this, right? So even if you calculated you might make less money with this, going off a complete estimate, it turns out that this is the way to go. You know what I'm saying? So you need to start getting that information. Okay, Azam says, I have a question. How can I practice the knowledge of management in real life? I think I should work on some side projects and apply what I've learned through my studies. Well, it's hard to get a more general question than that. So what you're saying is that you've learned management. Okay, you have all the knowledge of management. Management is, I assume by management you're talking about business specifically, like a for-profit business. Because management, it's a term that can apply to the military, it can apply to charities, it can apply to, all kinds of things. So how to manage something. But if you're talking specifically about business management, okay, business is the science and art of making money. That's what it is. So if you want to apply those principles in real life, in your daily life, first of all, it highly depends on what your daily life, what you do and what your situation is. But one aspect of it would be to start a side hustle. If you want to make money and you are passionate about the knowledge of business management that you've obtained and you want to apply it, that would be an application of it in its purest form, where you really see the real world without any sheltering, okay? There's a lot of people that are sheltered, a lot of people that are employees whose view of the business world is skewed because this sounds harsh, but it's true. They live a little bit in a bubble. Their job is in a bubble. For example, if you work in the operations department, you are an engineer or a technician, something like that. It's a cost center. The company gives your department money, and then you use that money to develop a product or provide a service, right? But you don't see the whole aspect of the business where they have to sell your product or your services, right? That's obfuscated from you. That's a different group of people in a different department. So you don't see that aspect of it. So as a result, you may develop a skewed perspective about what being in business is all about, right? The money just is given to you and you produce something. Same with salespeople. They have an equally skewed view of things. They go out and they make sales. But as we all know, if you have an amazing product that people love, it's easy to sell it, right? So they can sell something. They know about the market, the customers and all that, but they have no clue how to create something that people would want to buy. They just sell the product that other people have made, right? So once again, you get an equally skewed view of what being in business is all about, right? So if you want the purest form of being in business, it's to be an entrepreneur. That's where you have to wear all the hats. You have to be the operations person, the marketing person, the finance person, the accountant, and all the other services, all the other areas, right? Like IT and HR and legal and economics and all the rest of it. Okay, so that's how you can apply it. Now, let's get back to what I was going to talk about here. I got one more topic to cover before we take more questions. And that is, we're going to talk about practical marketing. And I wanted to share 4 principles with you guys today on how to do this. Okay. And this is kind of a crash course in how to do marketing if you don't know anything about marketing. And maybe you're an introvert, maybe you're a technical type. Like me, I'm both of those things. Learning some of this stuff, practical marketing, was some of the most eye-opening experiences of my life. The first principle is the marketing funnel. So hopefully you've heard of this. You know what? I'm going to crack open a browser and let's do this visually. Okay. Let me just pull something up here, and then I'm going to do a screen share. And you guys can hopefully follow along. Let's see if this works. Okay. So, marketing funnel. For those who have never heard of this or are not aware of it, it's basically this. It's not a very hard concept to understand. It's actually pretty simple. I've used this graphic before. Let's just go back to it. Let's see if I can I make this bigger? Oh, no, this is Google. I forgot. Google has some limitations here. Let me see if I can pull up something a little bit more user-friendly for pictures, which is Bing. Now, don't laugh, but Bing is actually, in my experience, Bing is actually pretty good for images because you can maximize the size of the picture without having to go to every individual website. So here. Okay, so let's look at this. So this is an example of the marketing funnel. That's basically what it looks like. Very simple idea. Here at the top are all the people, like you can call these levels different things. Everybody calls things different. That's what I hate about business. There's no standardization about anything. But let's say you put up a sign or you put out a post on social media, something like that. Now, let's say 100,000 people see it. Okay, that's a lot, by the way. But let's just pretend. Okay, that got smaller for some reason. Let's say 100,000 people see it. Why is this small? It just jumped on its own. Here we go. Okay, that's beautiful resolution. So 100,000 people might be aware of your post. Okay, so they saw it. Now, as we know, a lot of people, they might have seen it, but they didn't care about it. They didn't read it really. They didn't pursue it any further, and they were not interested in it. Of those 100,000 people, let's say 50,000 actually read it or took a good look at it and were somewhat interested in it, okay? But as we know, if you're interested in something, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to buy it or pursue it. It's just a passing interest, right? Of those people, say 20,000 considered it seriously. Of those people, 10,000 had an intent to actually pursue whatever it was that you were doing there, either to convince them of something or to sell something. Anyway, the point is, as you get down this funnel, then you'll get people that, look harder and harder and are more and more interested. They are more and more immersed in it. And then finally at the bottom, you get a minority of people that actually make a purchase. Okay, so that's the idea. So the idea is that this area up here, the amount of exposures you get, needs to be big. Okay. And then only a subset here will purchase it. Now, usually when people purchase it, they may have to go off more than just that one initial post. So, for example, if they saw a post or they saw a sign, usually the way it works is that, some people are interested enough that they will then go into the store, or they will go and, if this is online, they will go to your website and get a free trial of your product or something. They will take another step. So there's an intermediate step. Okay. And of those people that take that intermediate step, they go into the store, they try the product, a subset of those people will end up purchasing it. Okay. That's the idea. Now, what's the other takeaway of this? It's that you might have one marketing message for these people up here. You show them a picture or you give them a one sentence sort of line or something. But when it comes to the intermediate step where they have more of an interest and they go and they try the product, you will have maybe a different marketing message here, more comprehensive, more detailed, more immersive. Okay, so there's a separate marketing message here. You can't just rely on the original post now. Now you've got to give people more information. You've got to present it in a different way, and so on. There could be multiple steps down this process to the bottom of the funnel. So in order to get, so it's obviously a matter of ratio. So if you got 100,000 people up here, maybe you had 1,000 people down here, that's 100 to 1, something like that. So if you want to make 1,000 sales, that means, according to this, whatever the formula is for you, in our example, you would need to go to another 100,000 exposures up here. Okay, and so on. So that's the marketing funnel. Now, I highly encourage everyone to read up on that if this is all new to you. This is a concept that you definitely need to understand to get into the world of entrepreneurship and doing side hustles. Okay, that's my first principle of practical marketing, is being aware of the marketing funnel, realizing that you don't just need one message. Usually you need more than one as your prospects go down that funnel and you eventually turn them into customers, right? That's the idea. Okay, the second principle is that the message you have to learn about how to do a marketing message. So usually there's some kind of hook, and then there's some kind of call to action, and there might be a whole bunch of other things in between. So learn about that. Like a hook, sometimes if you want to sell like Nike running shoes or sneakers or whatever, do people still use that term, sneakers? Anyway, let's say that's what you're selling. You're Nike, you've made a shoe and you want to sell it. They decided, okay, we're not just going to like market ourselves in shoe stores. We're going to run ads like out in the world. Like we're going to run, used to be TV commercials, and it's ads on the internet, and and we're going to go direct to our customers, and we're just going to show them a picture of an athlete wearing our shoe. Enough said. There you go. No words, just Nike. Here's a person you probably all recognize. You see what shoe he's wearing, or he or she is wearing. Point made, right? So that could be your initial marketing message. That could be the thing that's up here, right? To gain awareness. And then when you go down here somewhere, then you have a different marketing message. You give details about the product. You give its expected lifespan. You give its benefits. You give how it's different from other shoes or other products, and so on, right? So the second principle here is that a marketing message has a couple of different parts. It has to have some kind of hooks and some kind of call to action. And sometimes it has other parts to it too. Learn about those. Look at what other companies and people are doing. See what works. And have that kind of in the back of your mind. And then work on yours. Okay? You don't just need a product or service. You need to have your marketing message down. Because at the end of the day, you want people to buy this thing, right? So there you go. By the way, thank you to the 28 people who are here. You guys are awesome. And it's great that you're here because you're improving yourself. Third principle is, like I mentioned in the marketing message here as kind of a secondary thing. I want to go back to that and make sure everybody gets the point. You need to have a lot of exposures to get a few purchases. Okay? If you've never studied business, you've never been in business, this might come as a shock to a lot of people. A lot of people think I'll put up a sign, 10 people will see it, and then 10 people will buy. Wrong. You need a lot. There's a huge multiple between here and here. Could be 1,000 to 1 sometimes. So you need a way of getting a lot of exposures, a lot of different people that see your ad, right? And in marketing terminology, exposures simply means one person seeing your message. It could be that person seeing your message 10 times. That would be 10 exposures. Or it could be 10 different people seeing your message once. That would also be 10 exposures. Okay, so that's what an exposure is. But you need a lot of them. You're going to need a way to get the word out. This is why the internet is so amazing. And social media is amazing, and some of the things that we have online are amazing. It's a great way that one person can reach millions of people if they know what they're doing. So if it's a matter of learning that might be something you want to do. Someone was asking a moment ago, how should I apply the principles of business? Well, here would be a principle of business you could apply. Learn how you personally can reach millions of people. That will give you influence. That will allow you to persuade a lot of people. And if it's to buy a product or a service, I suppose, that could be very profitable for you if you can provide value to people. So you need to go to many exposures. So that's something you have to have a plan for, okay? Like, for example, in traditional businesses, if you wanted to have a restaurant or something, you would put up a sign, right? And I'm not an expert in the restaurant business, but what I've heard is that cliche that everybody always says, right? Location, location, location. The idea being is that if you have a prominent sign and you're in a location where there are a lot of people that drive by or walk by, and those people usually likely will want food, right? Or a place to sit down and have a coffee or whatever it is that you sell, then chances are you will do more business, right? You can't have a restaurant out of the way in a remote location because it's cheaper. Then you won't have any regular people. You won't have exposures. Nobody will see your sign. People will forget that your restaurant is even there. They'll forget that's even an option, right? So you need a lot of exposures. So whatever your business type is, you're going to need a lot of exposures. So that's something to think about. And finally, the last thing I'm going to talk about, the fourth principle of practical marketing that is like a crash course in marketing for everybody, is you might have heard of this. It's a total cliche. It's called the 4 Ps of marketing. And over the years, you've got different people that try to sound clever by adding more. So then there was the 5 Ps of marketing and the 6 Ps. I think we're up to 37 Ps of marketing now. But the fundamental ones that are actually developed by management scientists, people in university who study business, there were 4 Ps, right? Product, place, price, and promotion. So if you want success, if you want a product to sell, you need to get those 4 things right. So you have to have the right product, the thing that adds value to your target audience. You have to have it at the right price. If you don't get the right price, you won't be able to really make money. Either no one will buy it or people buy it, but you don't make any profit, right? Place. This was where people are looking. So if you want to sell auto parts or something like that, that's kind of a very specific thing, don't advertise auto parts at the grocery store and on the street corner and, in front of an insurance company's building or at a mall. The placing of your product where your market can see it is incorrect. Where are the people who would like to buy auto parts? Well, they're probably at garages. They're probably at auto shows. They're probably at automotive conventions, things like this. That's where you need to be. That's how you get the place right. That's where you need to have a presence. That's where your exposure should be. And the 4th P is promotion. So product, place, price, and promotion. Promotion means you then have to shout loud. You need to make it so your message gets out there. Put up signs, put up ads, do posts, talk to people, right? Put up a booth at an event, etc. Okay? So those are the things that marketing concerns itself with. Fundamentally are those 4 things. Product, place, price, and promotion. That's how you implement marketing to sell something. So hopefully that makes sense. That's the end of the topic I was going to talk about. Let's get over to you guys and continue with questions here. Okay, so up, down, down continues. Apologies. I mentioned last feed that I'm doing market research with parents, Q&A to best curate a program for their... Oh yeah, okay, I do remember that. Okay, good. But what I said still stands. You need to now go out and get specific information on what you could do right? And that means talking mainly to potential customers, find out about the market. So when you're saying I'm doing market research, make sure you're going to the people that you would sell to. Maybe make sure you're understanding what their needs are, what they place value on, that sort of thing. It's a quest to get that, right? And not just those direct questions, but also the indirect questions. You want to understand what their life is like. If they're looking for, like childcare services or something, you need to understand, what their situation is, right? They're looking for childcare because they have a very specific need and they have to fit it into their lifestyle, and this is their lifestyle. So if you understand all of that, obviously that will help you understand what to offer and how to offer it. Howdy to Lee. Pro tip, Bing also doesn't blur out street images like Google Maps. Oh, I didn't know that. Why does Google blur those out? Is it like blurring out license plates or stuff like that? Up, down, down says, not just a lot of people, but the right people or the target market. Well, yeah, of course. But within your target market, you still need a lot of exposures. That's the idea. And it is not, as I'm sure you can guess, it's not always 100% possible to get pinpoint accurate exposures that are just in your target market. You're going to get, it's very fuzzy. You're going to get people like from other places looking at it. So you've got to try and get as much exposures as possible and have it be as focused to a specific market or market segment as possible. Okay, we've reached the end of questions for today, at least for the moment. If you are looking to learn business properly, meaning that you're not just getting something from an unknown source from just a random person, I offer this here, the $100 MBA course. And what that is the content of the course really doesn't come from me. What it is basically you get a reading list, and the reading list are all the textbooks that you would get in a brick and mortar MBA program at some of the best universities in the world. So like Harvard Business, the Harvard Business MBA, you're using several of the textbooks that they use in their program. So I didn't write those books. You're reading those books. What I am doing is I'm giving you the reading list for those, and I'm guiding you through it. So I'm giving you a couple of videos that talk about each of the subjects, and what are the practicalities of it, what are maybe the more important areas or the less important areas. If you're just wanting to get an overview, you could skim the material. If you're wanting to really go in depth because you're passionate about it and you're really excited about it, you could go in depth, right? So that's why I created this, because this material has been out there for hundreds of years, in some cases, and it's in the public domain, but yet a lot of educational institutions are behaving as if they own the material. They're charging an absolute arm and a leg for it when it's silly. It's silly. You can learn this stuff from a book, and okay, maybe you don't have the opportunity to go and talk to a, award-winning professor about, certain things, but the price is less than 1% of the program in some cases. So, better bang for the buck certainly. And this allows you to be able to learn the material while holding down a day job, while having a good work-life balance. You could do it on your own terms, on your own schedule. That's why I created this. So if that's of any interest to you, check out that course. There's a link in the description if you're looking to learn business. Annabelle says, you're awesome, Bill. Thank you, Annabelle. You've said that a couple of times. I appreciate that. So are you. And if you are looking to step into the world of business, you are awesome for wanting to improve yourself. It's a great thing. I think entrepreneurship is great. It enables you to do so many things in your life. It enables you to take a hobby or a creative passion that you might have and turn it into a money-making venture, which in turn allows you to do it as your main line. So if that's what you're wanting to do, these are the tools to be able to do it. It also allows you to have a little bit more security. If you work as an as an employee, there's a certain amount of job insecurity. You could get fired, you could get laid off. This allows you to have other options. You don't necessarily have to be an employee if you don't want to. It could be a thing you do, but you could also make money yourself directly. There's a little more financial security, a little more, diversification of your income, right? You could just do a side hustle on the side, ramp it up when you need it, ramp it down when you don't need it. There's a lot of different ways of doing this, but it's a real skill. It allows you to take what value you have and monetize it directly. So I think it's great. I haven't been an employee for a very long time, well over 10 years. I can't even remember how, like 15 years. So it's been my world, and I've never gone back. And I don't see myself ever going back. So that's why I encourage it for other people too. It allows you to be more powerful, to not rely on an intermediary like an employer to stand between you and making money. You can do it directly. Anyway, hopefully this makes sense. I do these live streams once a week on Mondays, so I will be back next week with another episode of Side Hustle Ideas. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the 20 people that are here now and everybody who asked a question. As I say, as you can see on the screen, if you want to learn business, check out this. If you want to learn how to do networking, you want to sort of do informational interviews and stuff like that, that is covered in this course. There's quite a few principles to it. That's why I found that topic the hardest topic that I've ever talked about on this YouTube channel, because it's so involved. You can't just summarize it in 5 minutes. You can't even summarize it in 2 hours. There's a lot of principles involved on how things work and why they work that way. So I put it into a course so you can go through it step by step, have all the principles laid out, see how everything works. Therefore, this is what I recommend you do. And now you know why I recommend that stuff. And I provide all that with templates and everything. On the other hand, if you're wanting to learn how to communicate, okay, which is a component of both of these things, being successful in business, or if you're just wanting to get a job or do networking, learning how to communicate is very important. It's also important if you just have a regular job and you want to climb the ladder. You want to be an executive. If that's something you're looking to do, I created, God, I get this wrong because my screen is a mirror image, right? I created this course, Write Like a Professional, where I teach you not just how to write, but what to say in different situations and what's really going on. And essentially, it's a guide to how to do networking, how to make people love working with you, want to work with you, how to be honest about things where you have to give bad news and you have to say no, but you do it in a professional way and you make a very good impression at all times. So if that's interesting to you, check out that course, Write Like a Professional. All the links are in the description box of this video. I will be back next week with another edition of Side Hustle Ideas, and I will be back in an hour with my other live stream called How to Get Hired, where we talk about job interviews and how to get a job. So if that's of any use to you, join me for that. Thank you to Annabelle. Thank you to Julie. Thank you to Azam. And thank you to Audrey. You guys are awesome. Take care. I'll see you soon.